Today, I will explain, shape-shifting woman monster has affair with a male to use her baby to stay immortal, movie named Spring, Part 1. 99% of people watched my video but did not subscribe to my channel. Please support me. Okay, sit back and relax, and subscribe please. At the beginning of the movie, we see a father died of a heart attack. Evan Russell, a miserable young man, now takes care of his dying mother, who was diagnosed with cancer months after his father died. One night, when Evan checks his mother, she asks him how he was doing and even mentions a joke, hoping to make him laugh. Evan smiles, but he suddenly notices that she's not breathing while still staring at him, causing him to mourn and bid his final farewells to her, even if it's too late. The next day, following his mother's funeral, Evan grieves with his only friend, Tommy, at a restaurant he's working in. Evan excuses himself from his friend when suddenly a drunk man taunts him, accusing Evan of trying to hit his girl. Tommy tries to appease the drunken man by giving him a cigarette, but the drunk man grabs an empty bottle, attempting to hit Tommy's head. Evan then brutally beats him to the ground, causing him to lose his job. Despite his pleadings not to be dismissed, his pleas are ignored, though a friendly coworker promises to persuade the boss to reconsider his decision. That evening, Evan decides to go home with Tommy to continue drinking and grieving for his mom's loss and job. While they talk about his plans, they realize that the drunk man followed them on their way home. The man threatens him that he will press charges against Evan, especially since he knows where Evan is living. Evan considers leaving the city, fearful of being sued or attacked further down the road, and without a job or family. Tommy encourages him to spend the night with a girl, ending him with a blonde woman despite his initial reluctance. However, the woman leaves after discovering that Evan has no romantic feelings for her following all they have been through. After a long period of intoxication, Evan awakens by the knocks on his door, and when he looks out the window, he sees the cops. Thinking that there's no one home, the cops leave. Evan then takes advantage of his opportunity to flee by booking a blind flight to Italy. When Evan arrives in Italy, he drinks and befriends two friendly drinkers named Tom and Sam, and they smoke pots. Evan's life is peaceful for the next few days as he enjoys the beautiful scenery while on a road trip with his new friends. When Evan and his friends arrive in a nearby town, he notices a bewitchingly beautiful young woman named Louise, who gazes at him as well, forming an instant bond. Later that day, while Evan hangs out with his friends at a nearby tavern, he runs into Louise again and decides to introduce himself. However, she rushes him and asks him to leave his friends and drink with her instead. Evan is surprised and delighted by her sudden interest in him, but he keeps his cool and invites her out tomorrow night. Louise leaves him at the counter bar, causing his friends to tease him. The following morning, Tom and Sam decide to go to Amsterdam and ask Evan if he wants to join them, but he declines, stating that he will stay in Italy, hoping for a fresh start. Later that day, Evan moves around the town to find a job and a place to stay until he comes across a flyer leading to a local farm, which offers a room in return for work. He then heads to the local farm and meets its owner, Angelo, who instantly hires him and shows him the space. Evan quickly befriends his boss as he casually inquires about Angelo's wife, who he discovers died of a car accident. Afterward, Evan walks along in an alley and coincidentally runs into Louise again, taking the opportunity to ask Louise out with him after she initially declines. As Louise heads into an art museum, Evan follows her while they're continuously conversing as if they already know each other for months. Inside the museum, Evan discovers that Louise is a student studying evolutionary genetics while getting paid. They come across a painting with a naked woman in it, and Louise asks what Evan thinks about it, to which he responds that she looks hot. Feeling uninterested, Evan invites Louise to go out and eat at a restaurant. That night, they go out to dinner and get to know each other better. Evan learns that Louise has traveled the globe and dated several different men, none of whom she could handle. He jokingly writes her a love letter, which she had asked him to write for her before they could get a bottle of wine, and when she reads it, it makes her smile. While they're drinking wine, Evan shares about himself, and Louise compliments him for trying new stuff here in Italy despite no assurance. A little while later, they go to a balcony near a shore, enjoying each other's company. Louise reveals that she has a hard time believing in God and that there's a lot of mystery out there, including herself to herself. She tells him that she's half undiscovered science with lots of confusing biochemistry and some crazy hormones, which Evan finds confusing and just tells her a funny story, leading him to kiss her. They kiss on their way to a motel until finally, they reach inside the room and end up having intercourse. Evan pulls out, but she snatches it from his grasp before they continue. At midnight, Louise awakens as a monster and flees the motel, devouring a cat on the way out. She changes into an unknown creature and even burns her skin under the sunlight, but she injects some medication to slow down the process and retains her human appearance. On the other hand, Evan wakes up alone and heads into the local farm to start his day at work while Angelo patiently guides him. Later that day, after his work, Evan goes out for a short walk, hoping to run into Louise again. Fortunately, they're living in a small town and he soon meets Louise at a local store. Louise pulls a prank on him, pretending she can't remember who he was. Evan starts to doubt the night they spent together when suddenly Louise laughs and comforts Evan. They spend the afternoon together as they walk through the alleys while eating gelato and enjoying each other's company. Later that night, Louise invites Evan into her apartment. While Louise cooks their dinner, Evan bothers her about her work while playing with her rabbits, which she rescued from the laboratory experiment. When Evan decides to play music, he realizes that Louise can communicate in various languages since her phone has many multilingual songs. As Louise joins Evan on the couch, she snatches his cigarette, asking him to quit it and prompting him to call her a hypocrite. However, when Louise stands to check their meal, she notices that she's starting to transform again. She asks Evan to watch over their food while she showers. Inside the bathroom, she begins a painful transformation into a horrific monster. Her vertebral column extends, and her skin is covered with hair, which explains why several scientific books and charts are all over her place. After the slight transformation, she manages it through her medication, preventing her from fully transforming. However, Evan finishes the soup, and they eat dinner together. Evan asks her to go to the beach with him, but she declines, telling him about her skin condition. Evan then realizes they will be seeing each other at night. The following day, Evan wakes up with Louise beside him on the couch. She kisses her goodbye, telling her she needs to work. When he visits the bathroom to pee, he notices a syringe on the floor, causing him to doubt her. The next day, while working with Angelo, Evan learns a lot about farming. They have a friendly talk about women, in which Angelo says that Italian women are the best, to which Evan protests that there are many beautiful women in the USA as well. Evan also shares that he's dating someone who he finds strange sometimes. Later that day, Evan and Louise have dinner again in a nearby restaurant when suddenly, Evan confronts Louise about the syringe. She explains that she uses it to inject herself for medication and assures him that she's not a junkie, nor has any STD. Evan seems relieved and asks if he can take a picture with her on his phone. However, when she inquires about his family, he becomes agitated and refuses to discuss it with her, calling the waiter's attention to take a picture of them. Louise seems uncomfortable about taking a photo, trying to avoid looking at the camera. The image captures a blurred photo of them, and Louise asks him to share something about his family. Still, he refuses to share, and when he is about to capture her on his phone, Louise walks out and heads to the shore nearby. An argument ensues as Louise thinks that he will brag about banging a foreign woman to his friends and that he can't be intimate when she's only asking about his family.